Welcome to Movie Slice. Quick, fun recaps of your favorite movies. Sharp, funny, and to the point. Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. The film begins in 1986 in Okinawa, Japan, where we see Daniel visiting Mr. Miyagi while he is training. Mr. Miyagi welcomes him and shows him drawings and pictures of his ancestors from the family on the wall. He introduces him to Shinpo, who was the first person to introduce karate and blend it with the family's kung fu. He tells him his story, explaining that he was once a fisherman. One day, while on a trip on his ship, a strong storm hit and swept his ship to the shores of China. There, the Han family hosted him and taught him karate until he mastered it. When Shinpo returned to Japan, he shared this knowledge, creating the connection between kung fu and karate in the family. Since then, they have preserved this connection and used it as their martial arts style. After learning this story, we move to the present time in China, where we see Master Han at his school training children in kung fu. A girl comes and warns Master Han that the doctor is coming, and he appears worried. He asks her to quickly delay and distract the doctor so she doesn't see her son Li while he is training. At the same time, they warn Li that his mother, Mrs. Feng, is coming, so Li quickly runs and hides. Master Han welcomes Mrs. Feng, Li's mother, who tells him that she respects him but knows he is secretly training her son, and she doesn't want to lose her son like she lost her older brother before. She explains her position as a mother, then tells him she got a job at a hospital in New York and will take her son Li to live there soon. She asks his permission and leaves. When Li hears this, he follows his mother, upset, not wanting to travel to New York. He wants to stay and train at Master Han's school. However, his mother tells him that fighting won't help him in life and that she has made her decision to travel and won't change her mind. Indeed, Li moves with his mother to New York, and he doesn't seem excited about his new life in the city. On the day they settle into the apartment, Li asks his mother for permission to go out and buy food from a pizza restaurant he saw at the end of the street. He goes to the pizza restaurant, and when he tells the owner he wants a stuffed pizza in the Chinese style, the owner laughs at him. But his daughter, Mia, steps in, apologizes to Li, and tells him that this is an Italian restaurant that only serves Italian pizza. She helps him and directs him to another restaurant where he can find the Chinese food he prefers. Li thanks her and leaves. The next day, while Li is in the subway, he sees a poster for a martial arts competition for the 5 boroughs and later hears about it at school. He tries to adapt to the new lifestyle but still doesn't feel like he belongs. While returning to school, he sees Mia in front of a vegetable store receiving goods for her restaurant, and when she drops some vegetables, he volunteers to help her. She remembers him and thanks him. Li offers to carry the items for her and walk her to the restaurant, and she agrees. As they walk together, they pass by a kung fu training center, and Li sees the trainees inside. Mia tells him she doesn't like that place and wants to stay away from it. At that moment, Oshio, the owner of the training center, appears and tells Mia to pass a message to her father, Victor, that he needs to pay the debt he owes. Mia ignores him and continues walking with Li. Oshio then enters the training center and tells Mia's ex-boyfriend, Connor, that he just saw Mia with a new guy who took his place. Connor gets upset and violently hits his trainee. Meanwhile, Mia and Li go to an electronics store to buy something for her, but the shop owner refuses to lower the price, and Mia can't negotiate with her. Li steps in and speaks Chinese with the owner and manages to get a big discount of $150. Mia is surprised that he got the discount just by speaking Chinese and becomes interested in learning some Chinese words from him to use for discounts in the future. They agree to meet so he can teach her some Chinese words. The next day, Mia comes and takes Li on a tour of New York City on her bike, but the bike's engine breaks down so they have to take the subway. In the subway car, Connor, Mia's ex-boyfriend, and his friends are there by coincidence. Connor is clearly upset that Mia is spending time with Li. Mia asks him not to cause trouble and to let them pass. Connor pretends to let them pass, but suddenly punches Li in the face, leaving him with a bruise. Li's biggest concern is how to hide the bruise from his mother, so Mia takes him to her father, Victor, to cover it with makeup. Victor, who used to be a boxing champion but quit and promised his daughter Mia never to fight again, helps him. Despite quitting, Victor still misses fighting and is excited about anything related to it. The next day, Mrs. Feng discovers the bruise on Li's face and gets upset with him because he promised her he would stay away from violence. She decides to take him to the library and introduces him to a respectable student named Alan so they can study together and become friends. That night, Li takes out his belongings from the box and sees a photo of his late older brother, a professional fighter, which brings back memories of his brother training him in the fast dragon kick. When Li tries to use the move against Connor, Connor is surprised that he knows it and knocks him down with a kick. The teachers intervene to break up the fight. Connor tells Li that if he has the courage, he should join the Five Boroughs competition, which Connor wins every year. Later, Li sees a poster for the competition on the wall and takes one. But since he promised his mother he wouldn't participate in any fighting, he appears frustrated. He then decides to go out and fix the bike for Mia that was broken. At that moment, in front of the pizza restaurant, men sent by Oshio come to Victor's restaurant to demand repayment of the debt he owes. They beat Victor, so Li intervenes and fights them to protect him. The men have sticks and try to hit him, but he dodges their blows and strikes back. When they see how strong he is, they run away. Afterwards, Li and Victor talk inside the restaurant, and Victor asks him how he is so skilled at fighting. Li tells him he trained in Kung Fu in China under his teacher Han. Li asks Victor about his debts, and Victor explains that he took a loan from Oshio that he can't repay. His only option is to sell the pizza restaurant to pay off the debt, even though he is very attached to it. However, he reveals that he has another idea to get the money to pay off the debt. The story is that he accepts an offer made to him to participate in a boxing match, but the problem is that he promised his daughter Mia that he wouldn't return to fighting, and also because he hasn't fought in many years, so he needs someone like Li to train him. However, Li apologizes to him and says that he can't train him because he promised his mother that he wouldn't participate in fighting again. Later, Li's mother, Feng, asks him to come with her to a Chinese festival in the city, and he agrees and goes with her. But later that night, when he returns, he calls his teacher Han and asks for his opinion about Victor and whether he should train him or not. Han replies and tells him that if he considers Victor his friend, he should help him when he needs it. That's why Li decides to train him. He goes to the pizza restaurant and tells Victor that he agrees to train him. Victor takes him to the warehouse in the restaurant and they start training. While they're training, Mia sees them together, gets upset, and blames her father Victor because he had promised her before not to return to fighting. But Victor tells her that it's just one match to pay off his debt. Even though Mia is upset, she can't do anything in the face of her father's insistence, so she lets Li continue his training. In the days that follow, Li keeps training Victor in Kung Fu techniques and also decides to work part-time at the restaurant to be close to Victor and continue his training with him. His relationship with Mia starts to get closer. We see Connor at this time passing by the restaurant and seeing them together, and he gets upset because they are close. Li continues Victor's training until he is ready for the fight. That night, Li sees his mother sleeping on the couch, so he covers her and looks at a picture of his deceased brother, which brings back feelings of guilt. He goes to let out all his anger on the punching bag. Victor sees him hitting the bag with strength and anger and talks to him, telling him that he's his friend and can listen to anything he wants to share to help him feel better. Li starts telling him about his brother who died, saying that he was a Kung Fu champion and had won many competitions before. But the fighter he lost to sent men to beat him up for revenge, and one of them stabbed him with a knife. At that moment, Li was frozen in shock and couldn't move to help his brother, and this has always affected him and made him feel guilty. Victor advises him that if he has a problem with the past, he has to face it and admit it to heal from it, instead of bottling up his feelings and hurting himself. Li finds Victor's words convincing. The next day, Mia invites Li to the San Gennaro festival, but Li tells her he's busy and promises that if he has free time, he'll go and meet her there. At night, he actually goes to the festival with his friend Alan, but to his surprise, he sees Mia there with Connor, and she seems comfortable with him, letting him put his arm around her shoulder. Of course, Li gets sad because he had started to like her. The next day, which is Victor's fight day, Mia notices that Lee is ignoring her, so she tries to talk to him and make him understand the reason for his behavior. Lee tells her that he saw her last night at the festival with Connor. Mia tries to explain that it's not what he thinks and tells him that she met Connor by chance, and at first they were just talking, but then she confirmed to him that she likes someone else and asked him to stop interfering in her life. She tells Lee that the other person is him, so Lee is happy, but at that moment Victor sees them and interrupts, saying, "This is not the time." Victor goes out to the ring and we see Oshio there. And we also learn that Victor's opponent is with Oshio, who is pressuring him. Victor enters the ring and is greeted by the audience because he was a former champion. The fight begins, and Victor is fast at first, but then he takes several punches from the other fighter. The rounds go by as he tries to defend himself until Oshio signals the other fighter to hit him with his elbow. The opponent hits Victor with his elbow several times, and the referee doesn't intervene or do anything until Victor passes out in the ring. Mia rushes into the ring, shocked, and calls Lee to help her, but Lee is frozen in place and can't move, just like what happened when his brother died. He is in such shock that even at the hospital door when Victor is being transferred, Mia keeps calling him to come in with her because they need him, but he still can't move. We learn that Mrs. Fung is the doctor who treated Victor at the hospital. She comes out to talk to her son Lee and scolds him because he promised her not to get involved in fighting and violence. Before she leaves, she tells him she wishes he would try to save people's lives instead of destroying them, obviously hinting at his brother's death. In the following days, Lee remains withdrawn and alone until one night he returns home and senses something strange in the apartment, knowing his mother hasn't returned from the hospital yet. Suddenly, someone attacks him in the dark and a fierce fight ensues. Lee tries to defend himself, and when he turns on the light, he's surprised to see it's Master Han. At that moment, Mrs. Fung opens the door, so they quickly pretend nothing happened and that they were just chatting. Later, Han sits with them for dinner, and Mrs. Fung asks him frankly why he came to New York. Han tells her that he came to visit Lee, and that it's a short visit and he'll leave soon. But it's clear from her look that she's not comfortable and doesn't believe him. Han goes into Lee's room and sees the tournament poster lying on the floor and understands the state Lee is in without words. He tells him that sometimes life can hit a person hard and make them fall, but a person must choose to get up and continue and not give up. He says he came to visit him to offer help when he needs it because he is his friend. The next day, Lee and Han visit Victor at the hospital. As soon as Mia sees Lee, she leaves the room because she's upset with him. Han introduces Lee to Victor, and Victor tells him that Lee always talked about him a lot. Lee feels guilty because Victor will have to sell the restaurant to pay off his debt. Victor tells him that it's not his problem, and he shouldn't feel guilty because he did nothing wrong by training him. At that moment, Master Han joins in and promises Victor that Lee will help him in his own way because friends help each other in times of need. Han excuses himself and leaves them. At that moment, Han tells Lee that he has decided to train him and let him participate in the Fifth Avenue tournament that he saw on the poster. He tells him the tournament is in 10 days and he must be ready. Han will leave for 2 days to visit an old friend and then come back to train him, not giving Lee a chance to object. Han actually goes to the old house of his teacher Miyagi, stands in front of his picture, and greets him. At that moment, we see Daniel appear, who has also come to visit the master. Miyagi tells Han that he had been looking for him for a long time to get to know him, and they sit and talk together. Han learns that Master Miyagi always considered him his close friend and told him more than once that if he ever needed his help, he could look for him and ask for it. That's why Han was looking for him, because his student needs to learn karate from him. Daniel is happy with what Master Miyagi said about him, but he apologizes to Han, saying he won't be able to help train his student or travel with him to New York as Han requested. But as Han bids him farewell, he tells him he will wait for him in New York and is confident he will come. We return to Lee, who is with his friend Alan. Lee's problem is that he can't find a place to train. Alan tells him he knows a place where he can train and takes him to the rooftop of a building which is suitable for Lee's training. Lee thanks him. The next day, Master Han wakes Lee up after returning from his trip and orders him to get ready for training because there's no time. They go to the rooftop and start their training, which includes creating and wearing the curtain. Han makes Lee do it while training upside down and asks him to focus and have quick reflexes. We learned that Han spoke with Mrs. Feng to convince her to let him train her son Lee, explaining that martial arts are not about violence but help a person find themselves and help others. We follow Han as he continues training Lee. During this, Daniel appears on the rooftop, just as Han was confident he would. The two masters greet each other, and Han tells Lee that Master Daniel will train him in karate, while Han will train him in kung fu. Both train Lee in their own ways, leading to funny disagreements about training methods. Lee realizes that training this way will be difficult due to their differences, but he knows it will benefit him and make him stronger. So, he continues training until only 4 days remain before the competition. Lee decides to talk to Master Han about his falling out with Mia and admits he's hesitant to reconcile with her. Han tells him that if he thinks Mia deserves it, he shouldn't hesitate. Lee is convinced and comes up with a plan to reconcile, ordering a special pizza delivery from the restaurant. Mia delivers it on her bike and asks Lee if he's sure about his decision. Lee tells her he'll be confident if she supports him, which brings them back together. We move to the day of the tournament's opening. The prize is $50,000 for the winner. The fight consists of two opponents facing each other, and one must score 8 points to win. Each hit counts as 1 point, but a knockout counts as 8 points. Lee's first match is against another opponent. In the first round, Lee is hit and loses a point. His opponent thinks he'll be easy, but Lee surprises him with a strong punch to the stomach, then a high kick to the head, ending the match with a knockout and winning his first fight. In the second match, Lee also wins, while Connor easily beats his opponent. Both qualify. In the third match, Connor wins easily, and Lee also qualifies for the final match against Connor. The final fight will be a week later on a Manhattan skyscraper rooftop. We see Connor and Lee each training in their own place, with both masters being tough on Lee, each using his own style, reminding him that his reflexes must be automatic and fast. Later, Daniel is seen trying to do the dragon kick, and Lee, curious, asks who taught him the move. Daniel tells him his late brother taught it to him. Unfortunately, Connor knows the move too, and when Lee tried it on him before, Connor countered it and knocked Lee down. Daniel tells Lee this is actually a good thing, as he can use the move differently from what Connor expects. That night, Daniel sits with Lee and shows him Master Miyagi's headband, explaining that it represents the style that blends karate and kung fu, and decides to give it to Lee. Lee is very grateful. In the following days, Lee keeps trying to master the dragon kick, practicing under the spinning arm, and both masters train him simultaneously to improve his physical strength and agility. Lee manages to perform the dragon kick and pass under the spinning arm, making him ready. On the day of the final fight, Lee is waiting and is surprised when his mother, Feng, comes in and talks to him. Lee expects her to try to stop him, but she surprises him by saying she came to support him, hugs him, and tells him she's proud of him. This is the feeling he needed to face the fight. He prepares with both masters, who put Master Miyagi's headband on him as he enters the ring. Everyone is excited. Connor enters the ring, and both stare at each other before the fight. When Lee bows to Connor to greet him, he's surprised that Connor doesn't bow back, showing his disrespect. The fight begins. Lee tries to hit Connor, but Connor blocks his attacks and kicks him, scoring 2 points. Lee attacks again, but Connor hits him multiple times, one blow even knocking him into the referee, earning Connor 4 points, putting him ahead. Lee gets up, encouraged by the crowd, tries to focus, and remembers his master's advice, not to attack Connor, but to simply react to his blows. Lee follows their instructions, lands his first hit on Connor, and scores his first point. Connor becomes angry and attacks aggressively, but Lee blocks him, kicks him, and scores another point, eventually tying the score with Connor. The fight continues, and Lee lands consecutive hits, earning more points until he's 1 point away from winning. Suddenly, Connor surprises him with a powerful kick while airborne, knocking Lee to the ground. Lee opens his eyes to the crowd cheering him to get up. Even though he can barely stand, he remembers his late brother and decides to push himself and not give up. He gets up and continues the fight, surprising everyone, including Connor, with his resilience. The score is tied, with 1 point left to win. Both prepare to attack. Lee decides to use the dragon kick and attacks Connor. Since Connor knows the move, he blocks it and lifts his leg to deliver the finishing blow. But Lee surprises him by suddenly dropping his body unexpectedly, dodging Connor's kick, and delivering a low kick that knocks Connor off balance. Lee follows up with the final blow and wins. Why? When everyone is happy with the new hero, at that moment, Connor from Giza tries to attack him from behind, but Lee senses him, moves quickly, flips him to the ground, and raises his hand to strike him. However, Master Han calls out to him sadly, asking him not to do it. Despite his anger, Lee strikes his hand on the ground, gets up, and Connor extends his hand, so Lee accepts it and greets him. Everyone is happy for them at that moment. A few days later, we see the opening of another branch of Victor's restaurant, and he invites them to the restaurant, where he makes them a special stuffed pizza just the way the Chinese like it. Also, Master Han sends a pizza order to Daniel's house. Daniel takes the pizza box, opens it, and finds that Master Han wrote him a thank you note, telling him that if he ever needs help, he can call him. Daniel is happy, and the movie ends. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates.